So we're hopefully past the point of marketing agencies calling everything they want to sound even vaguely futuristic quantum, because that's not what I'm doing with this. This thing does actually somewhat relate back to quantum physics, but so I don't sound like a juju salesman, I will now monologue at you about quantum physics for what will amount to a way too long period of time. Listen, the cat is dead. Or it's alive. Right now, in that box, it's one of those two things. This is something that people get hung up about a lot when it comes to Schrodinger's cat, because it's not really the point of the analogy. The point is you, the observer, because you cannot know which of the two it is on account of you cannot see inside of the box. You kind of have to assume that it is one or the other, but since you as the observer cannot ascertain which one it is, and both have the same likelihood of being true, you have to assume that it is both. That is what makes sense mathematically. From the cat's perspective, by the way, it is always alive, because if it was dead, it wouldn't be able to make the observation, "I am dead," on account of that's not how being dead works. It is only when you look inside of the box that you can ascertain whether or not the cat was dead or alive all along. It is at that precise moment that reality for you as the observer takes shape. Before that, it could have been anything. But what if you could not only know the thing that's going on inside the box, but also turn the cat into a purple giraffe with laser eyes? What if you were a quantum god? With a quantum method of GMing, you can be. Never be afraid of your players again by simply being on the other side of the reality curtain. Picture the following situation. Your rogue is sneaking around some building, and they don't want to get caught by the guards, because they're a rogue that's sneaking around a building. They come into a room, and the room has two doors, and they know that behind one of those doors is a guard, but they don't know which one. Depending on what you, the GM, would find most dramatically appropriate and interesting, the guard will be or will not be behind whatever door the rogue chooses to go through. Up until the exact point where the rogue opens one of the doors, the guard both is and is not behind both of the doors simultaneously. Only when the player observes one of these realities does it actually become true, and you are the one who decides which reality that will be. Even if the player knows that this is how you GM, the question of whether or not there will be a guard behind that particular door that they have chosen is still open, because they can't read your mind. Unless, of course, you're a dickhead who always tries to fuck over their players, or you're a wimp who never puts any kind of obstacles in their way ever. This is a very powerful tool when planning adventures, because it allows you to make the things happen that you need to happen in order for your adventures to unfold in a dramatic and tense and narratively interesting way, while at the same time still giving the players the maximum amount of choice. Now, I realize that strict simulationists will recoil at this notion, and if, that's the kind of way that you want to play the game, then that's the kind of way that you have fun. It's just that I personally happen to believe that if by sheer chance your players manage to meander around all of the interesting things that you have placed in your world with the grace and confidence of a somnambulist ninja, that is not in fact fun for anyone, because nothing actually happens. Meanwhile, the quantum method is not even railroading. It's just tracks appearing wherever the players decide to go. If you want your party to investigate a murder, the crime scene will be just on the street that they are walking down right now. If you want your character to find a cave in the wilderness, it's just wherever they end up being. If you want your party to be ambushed by their arch-nemesis will have laid their trap on the side of whichever road that the party leaves town on. Before these things actually happen, they are in all and none of these places simultaneously. It's only when your players observe these realities that they become real and were real all along. It's very important that with this method, you never change anything that has been observed. So if you want your parties to scout out an abandoned fortress, for instance, and they ask around town where that fortress is, and somebody tells them, "Oh, the fortress, it's down south." But then they go north, you can't just place the fortress north, because even if they've not laid their eyes on it personally, they have observed its location. The moment that definitive information is known, no matter if it is perceived with their senses or not, all realities collapse into one. At that point, they've just chosen not to go to the place. I mean, you could pretend that everyone they asked was just either lying or stupid, but that might be a bit of a hard sell. You could still, on the road north, plant the threads that might lead them down a tree of decisions that could potentially have them choose to end up at the fortress. And you know, depending on your setting and system and campaign, those might actually be quite powerful. Just don't force your players to go there. What this allows you to do is be incredibly flexible with your adventure planning and always keep tight pacing and have interesting things happen to your players. Player choice ceases to be an obstacle to be overcome in order to tell a good story. As a matter of fact, it might and probably will even lead to a lot of interesting things that you hadn't thought about when you were prepping the adventure. I mean, haven't you ever had a situation where a player came up with a brilliant idea that you wish you had made the solution to the problem when you were planning the adventure? Well, with quantum GMing, you can just pretend that it was your idea all along. Even if the player knows about this, they will have the satisfaction of having added something cool to the world from their own head, and also that things are going to the plan that they had imagined for their character. In a way, it even makes player choice more meaningful, because they can unwillingly influence reality itself. Suddenly, uncertainty, the thing that made you plan out every single element of your gigantic campaign world, just in case the players would stumble upon it, and build a decision tree that is more complex than an MC Escher building, becomes your friend. You can now get away with simply coming up with the premise of the adventure, just a problem, but not the solution. Then the players will come up with their solutions for the problem, and in the end, feel like they have cracked a puzzle that you never even designed in the first place. And it's not like you're the only factor making things easy or difficult for your players. RNGesus is also present, and he will most certainly make a lot of things very interesting. So when the dice decide that your scholar cannot in fact decipher those ancient dwarven runes in the inscription, it's not because they suddenly forgot how dwarven runes work. Maybe it's because this is a very specific dialect that they're not quite familiar with, or maybe it's because this particular inscription is too washed out to be deciphered. This makes it so it's not the character's fault because they suddenly became incompetent for some reason, but it's reality that has taken an unfortunate shape, and the players can still progress the story. Maybe the scholar goes to a library in order to find the things about the dialect there. Or maybe the wizard can cast a spell that will reverse the state of repair of the runes. Despite setbacks, they still get to progress in the story if they put in a little extra work. Now, there are people who will say that if the players don't come up with the specific correct solution for a problem, those players deserve to bang their heads against the table in frustration. And the thing about those people is that they're wrong. Listen, this whole quantum method thing is an old hat for so many GMs. And right now they're watching pornography because they clicked away from this video assuming that I wouldn't teach them anything new. I know I've done that. Many a documentary watching night has had a drastic change in topic simply because I thought that the thing that was being told to me wouldn't teach me anything new. And I, for that reason, never even got to hear the buried nugget of wisdom that would have been in that documentary if only I had kept watching it. So if quantum GMing is nothing new to you at all, and you are still at this part of the video, congratulations! You are a person of great intellectual rigor, and you are both more patient and less arrogant than I am. And if this was a new concept to you, congratulations! You are now a quantum god. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Share this to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. Consider supporting me on Patreon or Subscribestar, maybe buying some of the merchandise that I have, or maybe the short story collection that I've put out. And in that spirit, if you've never tried it, next time you GM, go try GMing with the quantum method. It cuts down on prep time, it makes it fun for everyone involved, and it really takes away a lot of the anxiety. And see you around, cunts!